Hey guys, it is Jordan, and I am coming on just to show you guys how to, just as a reminder, as a cheat sheet for you guys for the future, once you're out of this class, how to use image motion effectively. You won't always necessarily have B-roll, but you can have images that kind of helps highlight it. But I think you always need to have motion with those images. And also just how to effectively do it, how to make sure you're on your anchor point, and it's focusing on the correct things essentially. So this is a story I was working on for Sports 360 on if they went an offensive line route here in the first round of the upcoming draft. Tristan Wirfs, obviously a name that has been linked to them. So let's say we want some motion on him. We'll start the process. And usually what I do at some point, you don't necessarily have to have it on, but I think it's helpful to have it on when you're editing photos, is to have the safe margins on. And what the safe margins are is especially this outer one. This will guarantee, like for broadcast TV, that no matter what the TV is, it will show up within that square. Obviously, TVs are getting better and better, so they're less and less. But it's just a nice margin to have, just so you know for sure that your photo isn't going to be getting cut off. The logos, the lower thirds that you're using aren't going to be cut off. So for 360, like our logo goes in right here and fits very effectively. Our lower third comes in right here. So it's just a nice tool to have turned on while you are editing your photos. So let's start with the motion. And again, this is something we've gone over in class before. Just want to make sure that you can have it in front of you once you leave this class. So we are at the very, very first frame that we have for images. So we're going to click this stopwatch on position and on scale. Now, by default, at least on my Premiere, when you drop an image in, it is for 5 seconds. Now, you can make it longer, you can make it shorter. I wouldn't make it much shorter, unless you're doing some creative edit. Really, you want people to be able to see what you're working with. So we're on the first frame. We just set our points on where we want this image to start. So now we're going to go to the very, very last image. Some editors may have motion for the first second or two, and then it's static. I personally I don't think that looks very good. So I always recommend going just from the very first frame to the very last frame. If you do the, kind of half zoom and then a stop, it looks amateur to me. But that's my preference. But that's something I just feel strongly about with motion. So, okay, so we marked the start point. Now let's see where we want the end point to go. So we're going to zoom this in. I would recommend, for 5 seconds, about 120. I think you can even get away with like up to 140. We'll just say 130 for this one. So there's a zoom, but obviously it's focused on the middle. Now, this is a really strong photo of Tristan. You can see his face in it. Not always. That can be a rarity, especially with football photos. But we want to show his face. We don't want to show his number, his 74. So that means we need to play around with the positioning of it. So this first one, he'll go side to side. And the default is 640. So we'll just keep it at 640. The default for up and down is 360, but you can bring it up, bring it down. So what we want to do is we want to bring him down, okay? And you see there's not a lot of headroom on this photo, so he is actually kind of outside of the safe margins, but we have him about as low as we can without it showing a black image. So then, as we hit play, it focuses on his head, on his face, as it's coming through. Now, if we just do the zoom, hold on, there we go. Now, if we just do the zoom, we'll do this kind of the same process here. Keep that at 100. Set our position, set our scale, go to the very last image. We want it to be 130. we'll say 140. Like, most of his head's already cut off. Like, that's not that. I think this compared to this is a much stronger use of that motion. Now, again, with this photo, like, obviously I didn't take this photo, so we want to go ahead and do the courtesy as well. Usually, we have at 360 we have a partnership with AP Photo, so we really only have to put AP Photo / the photographer. I don't know the photographer's name, but I would look it up if this was a real scenario. But usually what we do in the bottom right corner, if we need to do it, we will put courtesy AP Photo / photographer name. Now, for our TV show, like at the end of the show, we'll courtesy AP, so we don't necessarily always have to do this, but it's just a good practice to get into. And I just make this small, and the rule of thirds that I kind of use, or rule of thumb I kind of use, is for our stuff, we usually courtesy at the bottom portion, and you want that text small enough that it can fit in between the two. I think we can probably even go smaller. I think that's probably appropriate. So keep it in between there. Boom, it is in the safe margin. Now, obviously kind of tough to see, so you can add an effect, you can add a drop shadow, just to make it pop a little bit. Again, it looks a little more professional when you use that drop shadow. Just look how much clearer it is already. But for distance, it starts at 5. I usually bring it to about 10. And then softness, it's 0. I go usually 20. So again, this is kind of a tough photo to work with for like a white text on white background, obviously. But this is also the fact I'm putting photographer name, that's a pretty long courtesy. So usually you want it kind of like right here, if you can size it up correctly. So, but this is, we added our motion, our zoom, it looks effective. We also added the anchor point, and you want to keep that focus obviously on the face, or, you know, if it's kind of a wide shot with multiple people, if there's a certain person you want to focus in on, make sure they're right smack dab in the center. So that is pretty much the basis of adding that motion and using the anchor points kind of effectively. So I hope that helped. And as always, shoot me an email if you have any questions.